Welcome to building the premier accounting firm and having the successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax business that you've always wanted. I'm Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. I've been working with accounting professionals for more than 20 years, helping them start, build, and have the premier accounting firm in their area, offering quality accounting services to get paid what they're worth. Working with Universal Accounting Center, I've had the opportunity to help a number of individuals get trained, certified, coached, and mentored in the things that are needed for them to be confident and competent in the services that they're providing. Today, we're excited to have on our podcast a wonderful guest, Robbie Romero. He's someone that I think you're going to enjoy because Robbie is a recent MBA graduate from Westminster College with over 15 years of sales and management experience in different industries. But what's exciting is he's currently running the sales for Cost Segregation Consultants, LLC. He happens to have 2 children and likes to fly fish, mountain bike, camp, etc. But what's exciting here is beyond just him personally is Cost Segregation Consultants happens to be a branch of a CPA firm that employs in-house cost estimators and CPAs to provide the necessary foundations for quality studies that pass IRS audits related to properties. And this is going to be somewhat interesting because of just the nuances of it all. They've actually done over 4,000 studies and only 8 of them have been audited with 0 changes. So one of the things that I want to do here is as we get set up is basically encourage you to like this podcast and subscribe to it so that you can listen to the other episodes that we have, because we're committed to helping accounting professionals confidently and competently offer quality accounting services to get paid what they're worth. The episodes that we have vary in topic and vary in expertise, and so I invite you back to actually listen to the other episodes that we have to make the most of these. Now, with that being said, Robbie, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me, and I'm happy to share a little bit of why I'm here and why I enjoy talking about cost segregation to accountants and helping building owners maximize their tax savings potential.
I'm wanting to basically start with really you just sharing a little bit of who you are and how you got caught into or brought into cost segregation of all things.
Well, I had graduated with my MBA from Westminster College in Salt Lake City, and I was looking around for a few new opportunities, and an audit partner in the CPA firm we're associated with, he told me about the cost segregation, and it's something that I wasn't familiar with. So it was kind of nice that it wasn't something that everyone on every other block around my neighborhood was doing, right?
Well, before you go on, tell us what is cost segregation, because I agree with you. It's not something everyone's familiar with. So obviously you were drawn to it. It is unique. In fact, I would suggest that there are many accountants out there that aren't even familiar with what it is or the advantages of it for property owners. So real quick, just what is cost segregation anyway?
So cost segregation is a tax savings tool. It's an engineering-based and tax-based tool that allows real estate owners to accelerate the depreciation on their residential and commercial real estate, taking advantage of the time value of money.
And as I understand it, you don't have necessarily an accounting background, but you were drawn to this CPA firm to actually offer this particular service. So how did that come about?
Well, as I previously mentioned, I have a friend that had mentioned it to me, and as I stated, I wasn't familiar with it. Let alone many CPAs or accountants out there are still super unfamiliar with it or don't know the real advantages to it. They may have heard the name, but really haven't utilized it. So I was just told about it, decided, hey, that would be a really good opportunity to reach out to someone as specific as accountants.
So who really benefits from cost segregation? Is it the accountant necessarily, or is it the property owner?
For the most part, it's the property owner. In a way, I always look at it as a win-win for the accountants, our firm, and also the property owner. It's a win-win-win, really, because it helps the accountant look like a hero to their client. We've even had some property owners say to their accountant in meetings, "Why didn't you tell me about this before?" or an accountant be told by one of their employees, like, "Hey, why didn't we know about this to help our clients out?" So,
So how are the accountants becoming the hero? What are they doing that's so unique?
well, really, just by going the extra mile, as far as kind of the brand of the building a better accounting firm. Um, it's one of those things that it can become, just like any industry, it can become easy to become complacent and not really look for that extra little help that may help one of your clients, even though many may not need it. When you're just at least familiar enough with a tool like this, you can provide it to everyone, and see who may or may not need it.
So you're suggesting that the accountant, the CPA, what they're doing is they're then able to offer a service that isn't very common. And more importantly, it allows them to differentiate themselves from the other commoditized services that they're perhaps known for as accounting professionals. So here you are offering cost segregation. And I want to make sure that we're clear as to what it is, but really, who's the client that benefits from this? Is it the everyday business owner, or do they have to have something in their portfolio that makes it worth doing this?
Yeah, so I'll get to a few of the specifics. Essentially, if a client owns any real estate holding that depreciates at 39 or 27 and a half years, what we're doing is finding certain components and segregating them. Essentially, in the IRS audit guide, it allows for certain componentization of placing carpet, blinds, certain cabinetry, land improvements, some electrical, et cetera, et cetera. You're placing them into earlier depreciation lives. Depreciable lives is 5, 7, 15 year. And so you're really just moving that savings up front. So anyone that owns, we've done apartments, we've done marinas, we've done wineries, we've done hotels, regular business offices, golf courses, ski resorts, mobile home parks. And so the range is broad as far as what you are able to do a study on. And I would say the cost basis on this, as far as where does this make sense, I think there's a lot of unfamiliarity where some people think you still have to have a $10 million building to do this. It has become more popular over time. And with that, prices have dropped with time. And you see more $500,000 buildings to $1 million, kind of the starting range. So
Uh-huh.
that's just kind of a visual as to, who could qualify.
Yeah, so if I'm an accountant, if I'm a CPA, a tax preparer, and I'm working with someone who owns properties, who actually, let's say, has, as you described it, has apartments or let's say office buildings, and all of a sudden they're depreciating over the more traditional realm, the numbers, and you're able to come in with an engineer and using the IRS code, help identify things that can be accelerated, allows them to benefit them from the amortization and tax code. So all of a sudden now you become the hero because of the savings that the business or that the building owner is able to derive from your work. Is that a pretty good summation of what we're talking about?
Exactly. Yes.
That is wonderful. Now, one of the things that I find intriguing here is, and in no way do I want to say it's a issue of laziness, but I liked how you described it. It's basically overachieving. It's going above the mark and beyond the mark as an accounting professional to help the business owner, those who own these properties, to really benefit from these additional services that you're able to provide. And the beauty of it is the accountant gets paid for this. So it's not just an add-on or an added value. It's literally something that is an added service that can be beneficial in your market, and as an accounting professional could actually help differentiate you from other services in the area. So this is, I think, a phenomenal thing. So what kind of stories can you share with us? Do you have an example of how a business owner actually benefited beyond what they expected?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm just thinking of one example that I didn't throw out as far as an example of a property. So I personally wasn't involved in this because I've been with the company almost 3 years now, but I know that we did this one in Sun Valley, Idaho, where it's a if anyone listening has been to Sun Valley, Idaho, there's an amphitheater there where Garth Brooks and other greats play. It's a really nice setup, and so one of the things that we typically wouldn't segregate is tile. I mentioned carpet because carpet can be removed without doing any damage to the building. removed and replaced if needed. Whereas tile is usually cemented down and you can't remove it. So that's, we can get into more details, down the road as far as what can be segregated or not. I mentioned a few earlier, but on this Sun Valley amphitheater, you have some on the walls of the amphitheater to help create that great sound. You have some imported rock from Italy that would usually just be, again, like tile cemented to the wall. Well, in this case, they had it hanging on little hinges. And because of how it was constructed and the fact that it's hanging and you can take those off and it's not permanently installed, you get a lot more value because we were able to take that instead of that staying at 39-year appreciable life. It drops, to whatever life that we put it at. I can't remember personally if that was 7 or 15 years, but because I wasn't involved with that one. But essentially, you kind of get the point there where um, it's a case by case scenario. Some things are pretty straightforward, like blinds, carpet, etc. But sometimes, depending on how something's installed or the use of it on the property,
Yeah.
can change that benefit.
So what you're describing here is in order to benefit from the acoustic properties of the tiles, they chose to actually hang them as opposed to adhering them to the wall, and doing so made that eligible then for this accelerated depreciation, and then the property owner is going to benefit from that. And what I think is very telling about what your story is sharing here is it's not that a great candidate or contact is the business owner, but oftentimes it's the architects and also the people that are renovating spaces. Because if they're made aware of how the business owner could benefit from these things, they can more purposefully build these into the designs of the buildings. And in doing so, actually help benefit the business owner simply because they proactively planned to do things to meet that IRS code. And so the way I see it is, if you were working with accounting profession, or if you're an accounting professional working with an architect or somebody that's doing renovations of properties, and you helped educate them as to how they could benefit their business owners, their property owners, as to what different things they could be doing on the landscaping, on the interior, that would allow them to be eligible for these types of IRS benefits, you could really change what that business owner is doing, that property owner is doing with their property, just because of the added benefits they're going to get on the tax side. So, property owners, obvious great candidates for this type of a service. Architects, renovators, people that are involved in the construction side of things. Who else do you feel needs to know about this?
I think it's great for anyone to know, really. I mean, when I'm having a conversation with even just someone in my neighborhood or someone at the gym or whoever, I try to just make it known what we do, and hey, if you know anyone that owns any type of real estate, no one wants to pay taxes, or at least push them forward. So really anyone. My market is almost 100% straightforward accountants. I've done some booths at other trade shows, and occasionally I'll have lunch with a real estate professional. I actually did yesterday. So I'm always open to speaking with someone else, doing a presentation, a CPE, etc. But no one can care more than the accountant, because that's what their job is to help alleviate the tax burden for their client, and find ways to basically make their business as profitable as they can.
So, what advice would you have for a CPA, a tax professional accountant? What advice would you have for them related to cost segregation?
Really, just to become educated on it. Obviously, we love marketing our services and telling what a great job we do and how great of a report we have. But however it may be, sometimes I'll hear that someone goes through another cost seg firm, and obviously we won't work. But I can't tell you how many times I've come across different CPAs out there when I'm in California or Idaho or Arizona, other states that I travel to, and I'll say, hey, great, we'd love to be able to give you a quote, but just become educated, and if you already have a firm, great. If you don't, just become educated, learn something about it, so that you can at least have it become somewhat of a talking point to your client base. And you may help them, you may not. They may not own a building now, but they may have a residential rental next year, or um, may have some type of contact or a partner that owns a building, right? Um, so it's just really, I would just say, become as educated as possible, and it really doesn't take that much time. I do hour-long CPEs, and even me not being an accountant, but just being able to do a 30,000-foot flyover of what cost segregation is. Here are a few examples. These are a few of the rulings, etc., that make cost segregation. Um, Even in that hour, you can get a lot of information, even just such as this podcast, where um, it's not going to take a lot of time or energy out of you be outside of that to help your client save money. You just basically engage with someone like us. We do a free proposal, and you can see the estimated tax savings. We do the work. It's an engineering. It's more of an engineering input and a tax output, the way I see it. And then you get the depreciation schedule, and you just plug and play. You just type in the numbers that we've given you, and it's not just a construction split. It's all the details you need for the new depreciation schedule. So.
Good, good. Now, obviously, this opportunity lends itself to some great stories. I think one of the things that's quite fun is because of how unique this work is. You were mentioning ski resorts and golf courses. Give me a good story as to what kind of avenue or opportunity presented itself simply because of the fact that you were offering this cost segregation service.
Yeah, so I'll just give you one example of like snowmaking equipment at Deer Valley Ski Resort in Park City, Utah. So sometimes, like I said, sometimes you can't take certain things, sometimes you can. So there's a cement pad that holds ski making equipment. The cement pad typically would be, usually we're talking like part of a building, right? It's like the floor of a building. But if it's outside like that and it's supporting a piece of equipment that's sitting at 7 or 15 year life, because it is there only to support that equipment, then you can segregate that pad. Just same as the electrical or plumbing. That's why dental offices are big, and grocery stores, because of all the freezer section. So we go back to the electrical panel and take a picture of the panel, and then my engineer gets into the nitty gritty when he's doing that for something like again, like the snowmaking equipment, because you can take a percentage of what's feeding that asset, and then get even more value than meets the eye. It's not everything that you just see, but like I say, certain plumbing and electrical, and even the soft costs and builder's profit that went into making that. So when possible, it's good to not uh, segregate your FF&E, where if we do it as part of the study, we can actually just tie in those soft costs and builder's profit to those assets.
Very good, very good. So I'm just going to break away here real quickly and just mention our sponsors. Obviously, that's very important to us as a podcast. So our sponsors today are Universal Accounting Center, and it's the book Red to Black. It's essentially a 30-day turnkey process to help a business go from red to black. The principles taught in the book are actually meant to focus on cash flow management, helping accounting professionals literally work with their clients to prioritize what is perhaps the most important issue or challenge that they face as they struggle with cash flow. One of the things that we encourage you to do is get a copy of Red to Black today. You can get a free copy of the ebook Red to Black within the description of this podcast. And with that information, actually get what you're looking for as an accounting professional to really work with your clients in the thing that they perhaps are challenged with most, which is their cash flow. So to get your book today, go to the description, and in that part of the section, actually just click on the link there and receive your free copy of Red to Black. Now, Robbie, one of the things that I wanted to bring up is something relevant to what you shared at the very end there, that you're not an accountant, but you work all the time with accounting professionals. one of the things that I think is interesting is you have this unique perspective of helping these accounting professionals really leverage within the accounting profession something that is oftentimes overlooked. So I'm curious, what advice would you have for accounting professionals as to leveraging this in their own business and offering this service to their clients?
Well, as I previously stated, just become familiar. I mean, even if you just read something online, um, or reach out to a colleague that may know more about this. We're a one stop shop as far as just being able to gain some education on it. I mean, we can do a webinar. Typically, I'll just go out to a CPA firm, just really depending on a location. But I'm willing to go do a CPE, but we can do it online, and bring in some lunch, educate, get some information. Um, there's only about 6 or 7 items that we need for a quote. But that's really what I would recommend. However, you get that information, just become educated. An hour or two really is enough time where an accountant can gather the important information to be able to just move forward with it. And then obviously there's always something to learn, or a tax law changes, etc.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you making that offer because I know that our listeners, there are many that are actually members of chapters or associations related to accounting, and perhaps they will have within their group a way to invite you as a guest speaker to literally come in and speak to a group of accounting professionals. I know that Robbie travels quite a bit, and he'd be welcome to the idea of coming out and doing this CPE training and actually help you as a chapter or an association learn what it is that you could benefit from and how you could apply these services in your business to help your clientele, especially those who own properties. Now, I'm going to get a little bit more direct here, Robbie. I'm kind of curious because I think this is a great discussion that we're having here. What's the most important lesson that your mother or father ever taught you?
Um, I would just say to work hard and be nice to people. Just treat everyone as you never know really when something's going to come back around to help you out. But yeah, just to work hard and be nice to people, be a positive person.
That sounds like something mom would always teach us. Be nice to everyone, and it'll come back to you. And dad would say, work hard. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Well, one of the things that I can relate to that is I was just recently speaking with my son, and he happened to quote something, and it was me trying to get him to do something, and he was hesitant and reluctant, and I said, "Don't try, you've got to do it." And he said, "Dad, you always say that. Try not." And I said, "No, that's not me. That's Yoda." He had no idea that it was Yoda. He finally put two and two together. But my point is there's oftentimes things that we teach our children. And in my case, some of these things even came from my mother and father. And it may not be us that originated with that comment or that principle, but yet they attribute it to us as parents. And I was actually quite honored that my son thought I was wise enough to give him that bit of wisdom of not trying to do something, but actually doing it. So that was quite good. I enjoyed that. Here's another thing. All of us have friends in our lives. Why do you think your best friend is your best friend?
I would just say trust. I certainly know that when I trust someone, that's what puts that superlative word in there. Best as because you just never really know. I mean, sometimes you think you can trust people, but I think over time, your best friends you develop, and even if you don't, it doesn't mean you have to see them, or doesn't mean you have to talk to them all the time, or whatever. But the ones who do somewhat stay in your life over the course of time, I think there's been a mutual trust, and I would emphasize mutual as most importantly.
And how do you think that trust is shown? Is it something that's said? Is it something that's done?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's something that's done. I mean, anyone can talk, right? Talk's cheap, but I would say through actions.
Very good. Yeah, I've got a number of great friends in my life, and I can honestly say that it's one thing to sit down and talk and just kind of shoot the breeze, if you will. It's another thing to do things with people that really involve trust. And just to give you some examples, we've gone out and done a number of activities, and it's kind of like that story of you stand up on a block and you lean back and you fall into people's arms, uh, kind of hoping that they're going to catch you, and you're wondering whether or not they will. Well, we've done a number of activities as friends where we've gone outside and done snowmobiling activities, or gone, in my case, dirt bike riding. They were on their side by sides. And what happens is you end up in situations where you need each other. And I mean need literally. And it's those true friendships where, hey, I need you to do this, and I have this trust that you're going to follow through, that you'll actually come through on this. And that's important, because I think we all need in our lives individuals that we can rely upon. And for many of us, it's family. There's, I'm sure, a lot of family that is very important. There's friends, there's colleagues that we can rely upon. And so, like you just said, it talks cheap. So it's good to have people that will listen. It's good to have people that we can be relaxed around and open up freely. But it is more important that ability to obviously have people that you can rely upon because of their actions. So well said. The other thing I was kind of curious is, with all the things that you're doing in your travels, I'm imagining you've traveled mostly in the United States. Is that right?
Yeah, and I have a special emphasis in the West just because we're located out this way. But I mean, we do go to every state as far as being able to get these studies completed. My engineer was in Wisconsin and Colorado last week, and LA the week before. He's in Phoenix today. So
Uh-huh.
um, I like you said, typically put a little more emphasis on the Western states, but I speak with people from all over.
So, with that being said, when you travel like you do, having traveled a lot myself, what's your go-to food when you're out and about?
Tacos.
Tacos.
Yeah, they're hard to beat.
Do you have a particular go-to taco, or is this like a street taco, or are we talking Taco Bell or Del Taco?
Yeah, I'm talking street tacos.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
So, are you a
as
fish taco
un-American as the
guy?
name is of the business, I think the better it is. I came across one the other day that was just sounded a little too gringo, if you will, for a taco place.
Gotcha. Well, the street tacos, they do vary in quality, but they are an adventure to go eat nonetheless. And so I can understand that. My wife quite enjoys the street vendors, the street trucks, or the food trucks. And so
Yeah,
she'll definitely make it a point of stopping and getting something just because she's curious about the food. So yeah, those can be adventurous and fun, and oftentimes very good.
yeah. I'll be in San Diego next week for a CPE actually, and I haven't been there in a long time, but I think I'm going to be trying out some fish tacos and getting a little crazy there. So
Well, that's funny because I'm going to be in San Diego in a few weeks as well. Do you have any go-to things to do in San Diego that you like to do other than the food trucks?
I tried surfing there 20 years ago, and all I remember, I probably still have seaweed in my mouth from attempting surfing, but so it wasn't the best. It wasn't a Kelly Slater or Laird Hamilton surfing experience, but I don't really have too many other memories besides kind of hanging out on the beach. And I remember having some fish tacos down there, so that's why that kind of came to mind.
Interesting. Yeah, some of our favorite places to go to in San Diego is we'll go down to the Hotel Coronado. Very beautiful. The beach down there is great. Nice history about the hotel and such. That's quite fun. You can go to the beach, and you can oftentimes see some of the military exercises going on there. I know the SEALs have trained there, and so that's quite fun. We've gone over to old San Diego, and there's a lot of nostalgic type things, museum type issues. You can go and interact with some old type eateries and food, and at the same time, they've got some kind of like old art type things that are quite impressive to go see. So that area of town is phenomenal. There's a church museum there of the original founders of the area of San Diego that are quite impressive to go look at. They've got some interactive things there for kids that were quite fun. And then the other thing that we enjoy is, definitely the zoos. They've got not just a traditional zoo, but a wildlife reserve type, and that was fascinating. I thought that was quite fun.
Oh, cool.
So San Diego is where my wife and I had our honeymoon. We were married up in Los Angeles and went down to San Diego. So I've got a number of things in the San Diego, definitely SeaWorld, obviously. So lots to do there. So we're looking forward to going. As we wrap this up, Robbie, one of the things that I'd love to ask is, as a salesperson, you're managed by quotas and managed by expectations. What advice would you have for an accounting professional who's trying to grow their business and offer perhaps these quality services like cost segregation? What advice would you have related to business or sales?
The advice that I'd have related to sales is to do whatever research you can first. I mean, I have to do that. I this isn't something, again, I just go market to any Joe Schmo out there. I mean, I've found out over time, kind of on my own, that CPAs really are, or CPAs/EAs, accountants. I just kind of use the term CPA more often than not, just because of the name of the firm or whatever. But to just do whatever research you can, keep your options open as to what services there are out there, so that you can be prepared when it comes time to dealing with your client. That's kind of the approach I take on even just marketing out to certain firms or individuals. So making sure that I do my research first, and then sort through who I think is going to be the best fit. And that may be a tip for even just getting new clients. Maybe you don't want any type of client. Maybe you want a specific niche, just kind of like I market to. Whereas, if you're trying to build a firm where you're more centered around construction or maybe restaurant, I've seen that. I have lunch with CPAs all the time, accountants, where maybe they were in a specific, into a specific industry, but then they end up deciding that they just want to work with people that own restaurants. It gives them just a little bit of an advantage because they're just continually working with that type of business.
Gotcha. Well, one of the things what I really appreciate about what you're doing here is I think you're introducing accounting professionals to something that may be overlooked or forgotten, and it definitely is a quality service that can and should be offered. So real quickly, before I do a recap of our conversation, I'd like to just do another shout out for our sponsors, Universal Accounting Center, offering the book Red to Black to help accounting professionals focus on what is perhaps the most common frustration or challenge that a business owner faces, which is cash flow. So get a copy of your book, Red to Black, and see what it is you can do to become that accounting professional that specializes in helping accounting or business owners actually take and move their businesses from red to black. And with that in mind, I would also encourage you to take advantage of Robbie's offer to reach out to Robbie and find out a little bit more about cost segregation, perhaps get them to, in his firm, offer you a quality report that you can take to your clientele, or perhaps even invite Robbie out to your area to present and speak to your association or group about the ways in which you can benefit from cost segregation as a service, and in so doing, actually get some CPE credits. So real quickly, as a recap, I think what Robbie really pointed out that's quite important here is cost segregation is a valuable tool or service that you can be offering as an accounting professional when it comes to property owners, whether it be someone that owns rental properties, office space, golf courses, ski resorts. I mean, he went down a nice lengthy list of how different things can be benefited. And one of the things that I'd like to just stress here is with regards to our efforts to each individually as accounting firms find what we can uniquely offer, this gives you a chance to offer a service that could be really helpful to architects, building owners, commercial real estate people. You could obviously deal with renovators, where if you educate them obviously to how things can be eligible for these tax accelerations, all of a sudden what happens is you get into a situation where you become that local expert, that go-to person for these unique clients. And in doing so, you can obviously grow your business offering quality accounting services to get paid what you're worth. So with that in mind, I just want to invite you again to listen into our episodes as well as subscribe to this podcast and see what it is you can do to build the premier accounting firm. For more information on how you can apply these principles in your business, just visit us at universalaccountingschool.com or give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. So Robbie, thank you again for joining us for today's episode, and everybody else, have a great day.
Thanks, Roger.